What means more, the biggest reaction or the biggest box office draw? Because being over in 2016 isn't as easy as one might think. It's not as easy as Vince McMahon taking one look at you and going, all right, you're the guy. You're the guy that we're putting this all on. We know the WWE sees something in Roman Reigns, and, I can see it at times too, that Roman Reigns could eventually be the guy to carry the company into the future. But for right now, with the returns of Seth Rollins, in the future Neville, Hideo Itami, the NXT call-ups, the question is, what does it take to get over in 2016? Because it's not as easy as Vince McMahon taking one look at you and saying, all right, you're over. Well, that goes a long way. You're still waiting behind that curtain to see if what actually was planned goes over how it was supposed to. You hear in former memoirs of superstars Vince McMahon talking about a gimmick when it was supposed to happen and whether or not it would actually work or not. He sends you out. He gives you the opportunity to make it. Some of the biggest storylines in the past couple years were ones that didn't come easy, and they didn't come in the age of 3 to 5 minute YouTube videos, in the age of instant gratification. Shout out to my boy CM Pulse. Also, I have a podcast like his podcast, Behind the Crate. You can go to WrestleCrateTV.com to listen to it. That episode just went up yesterday. And you look at what is happening in the WWE, and we all expect stuff to happen instantly. We all want that instant reaction, the instant gratification of, okay, we want him to be champion now. We want Roman Reigns to go. Bye. If we look back at past eras where guys like Bruno Sammartino, Bob Backlund held the titles for extended periods of time, the WWE has changed end over end when you look at something like this. The title reigns of Sheamus having less than 2 months as champion being transitional. Looking at a guy like Triple H, who also held the title for just a couple months, versus guys that held it longer, like CM Punk with a 430-day title reign. Seth Rollins, who could have honestly went on to challenge that record had it not been for his injury. Fans are not keen on waiting when it comes to wrestling. We want something now, but the best storylines in the past couple years didn't come easy. Daniel Bryan's momentous victory at WrestleMania 30 was something that even to this day gets me twisted and tongue-tied. Just thinking about it. This was a guy that didn't fit the stature of the WWE, didn't fit the look. When he got fired the first time after choking out Justin Roberts with a tie and a cord, which seemed like it fit the storyline, I didn't know if we'd ever see him back in the company again. Ultimately, Daniel Bryan would be brought back in with the Nexus angle, and from there, it became history. Now, Daniel Bryan went on to so many different storylines within that time. Daniel Bryan did that ultimate sacrifice. At WrestleMania, he lost in 18 seconds, a match that I was so excited for because I love the fact that Daniel Bryan was World Heavyweight Champion. When he finally cashed in that Money in the Bank briefcase at TLC, when Big Show and Mark Henry had laid each other out and he was finally able to cash in, and then he would go on to, in heel fashion, retain his title any ways possible. The triple threat steel cage match where he was able to escape victorious. He would go on into the WrestleMania season, which I'm thankful it wasn't Mark Henry or Big Show, and it would have the best thing possible for him. An 18-second loss. An 18-second loss that people said buried Daniel Bryan harder than anything it ever had in the history of the company. 18 seconds on the grandest stage of them all. People were shocked. The crowd couldn't believe it, and that's where the crowd chants changed Daniel Bryan's life. The no chants turned into yes chants. The crowd started to have a reaction to him. How could that possibly happen in 18 seconds? Now, that would go on to lead to, some things over the next couple of years. From being in a tag team with Kane and Dr. Shelby, which became some of the best comedy segments, it ultimately led to Daniel Bryan being held down and kept away from that title. When he finally had that opportunity and faced John Cena for that championship, only to have it taken away from him live in person when Triple H spun him around, laid that pedigree, and Randy Orton came down to cash in. After months and months and months of being kept just short of the title, from being put in not one match, but 2-3 matches a night, from gauntlets, to eventually showing that never give up, never die attitude to overcome at WrestleMania 30, that put Daniel Bryan on the map as a superstar. Now, he was already over. The fans already loved him even more. But seeing him constantly face those trials and tribulations ultimately got him more over than he ever possibly could have been in the WWE. Now, I don't give WWE a lot of credit for this more than I do Daniel Bryan, because I don't think the ultimate end-all, be-all plan was what WWE originally envisioned. I don't see them believing that keeping Daniel Bryan away from that title for a year was the best way to go and to have the biggest crowd reaction, one of the biggest crowd reactions of all time. I think it just kind of happened. WWE audience was fed up with guys like Batista, who would be coming back and getting that Mania main event. Guys like Randy Orton. They were just fed up. And ultimately, a guy like Daniel Bryan filled those shoes. It's not an easy thing to get over in the WWE, and it's certainly not quick. Today, we want a superstar like Finn Balor down at NXT to come up and instantly be the top guy, or one of the top guys, because we see it in him, because we've watched him in NXT. But those NXT gimmicks don't ultimately make you superstars. Those NXT gimmicks don't ultimately put you on TV in the main event and just get you over as well. Just because NXT is over and Triple H is doing wonderful things doesn't mean those gimmicks work. You still need character, and you still need development. Enzo and Big Cass, every time to this day, hearing the crowd light up and pop brings me hope and wonder. Enzo Amore was a guy who had no wrestling training or background whatsoever before he came to the training center. Now, Enzo is kind of a one-off in my opinion, in terms of a guy that went from absolutely nothing to now is probably one of the best talkers on the mic. Big Cass is showing things when Enzo is hurt that can go to show that Big Cass could ultimately be something big in the WWE. But how they get there or what happens down the road is ultimately going to depend on what the opportunities WWE gives them, where WWE sees them fitting in. Will Enzo and Big Cass still continue to get themselves over? Will WWE help them out a little bit and put them in a little better spot? The future is bright for guys like Enzo and Big Cass and that NXT system. But if you look at call-ups like Apollo Crews, what is Apollo Crews doing on the main roster? What is his purpose? What is his mission? Kevin Owens was a prize fighter. He wanted to fight for a prize, and, well, ultimately that started off really hot. It's kind of died off as of late, which I still want Kevin Owens to be that prize fighter. He fights for a prize. You have guys like Cesaro, who, while they're over, and I love Cesaro, I still want more from him. There's more that Cesaro can do to get himself over besides being the best in the ring. When you look at everybody that's in the ring right now, and you honestly think and contemplate who is over and who is not only, there's only a handful of guys I see that get that reaction every time. John Cena, Enzo and Big Cass, Roman, whether it's good or bad, Seth Rollins, and maybe a couple other people. But for the most part, they're not there yet. They're not over, and they're going to need some help to get there. Apollo Crews isn't doing himself any favors by getting beat up backstage and then just coming out smiling. Okay, I'm supposed to believe this guy just took a beat down and now he's coming out smiling. Now, it's fine if he loses because he took that beat down, but why wasn't that story explained to me? So for the guys that are down at NXT and you're trying to get over, look what has worked. You're not reinventing the wheel here. It's entertainment. It's sports entertainment. Now, I don't know what it's going to take to get a lot of people over, because Enzo and Big Cass just had it. There was something about them. When they got on the mic, you were entertained. I remember a couple years ago, my biggest fear was whether or not Enzo and Big Cass would have the crowd reciprocate their chants, would reciprocate their phrases, and whether or not it would work. Well, a year or two later, Enzo and Big Cass are on the main roster getting some absolutely huge pops. Thanks in part a little bit to the injury from Enzo, but even when he's hurt, he can play off of it. If you remember when he got injured down in NXT, it played into their character even more. You saw him on a buggy. You saw him not remembering what happened when he got himself there. But ultimately, what you saw was entertainment. And getting over in today's day and age, you just need to be entertaining. You don't have to be the best wrestler in the world. You don't have to be the most knowledgeable. You just have to be entertaining. Whether you're trying to be the top guy in the company or you're just trying to be on the card, the one thing that never changes is people's reaction with the crowds. So to get over, don't change the formula. Just do what you already do, but make me care. When I see a victory, I want to know it meant something. When I see a loss, it also told a story. Enzo and Big Cass are something special. I don't know if that formula can be replicated between everybody, but being over in 2016, I'd take a good look at Enzo and Big Cass.